Welcome to my 12th Making Browser Games video, and this video I hope is going to be a little bit shorter than the last one. All we're going to do is finish up the rock, paper, scissors game by using functions. What we're going to do is we're going to split this rock, paper, scissors code into three parts. The first part is getting the player move, second part is getting the computer move, and the last part is calculating the winner. But we're going to use functions to give names to those different tasks, and it's going to really organize this code. And this is the last video for the, not the series, but the rock, paper, scissors game, and then we're going to move on to a different project. So let's start. Again, three steps: the player move, the computer move, and then calculating the winner. And we're going to divide those into functions. The first function I'm going to call get player move, like that. And what it's going to do is it's simply going to return the value of prompt. Enter rock, paper, or scissors, like that. Because remember, all we were doing earlier was prompt is a function that gives you a value based off of what the user types, and that value you can store in a variable. Well, we're basically going to put this in our own function. But in fact, let's do a little bit of checking first. Let's call it move, like that. So we have the getPlayerMove function, we have the move variable equal to the user input, and now let's do a little safety check here. Let's make sure that they entered a valid number or a valid letter. So if the move, I don't think I've ever said not equals. The not equals operator is exclamation point equals. I want to make sure that move is not equal to any of these. And if that's the case, I know that it is incorrect. So if the move is not equal to rock, well, let's make sure. Then if the move is also not equal to paper, and then we're going to do one more. If the move is not equal to scissors, then we know for sure that this move was invalid. Console.log invalid input, your move is now rock, like that. So we're going to return R for rock, which means that this whole function is going to be equal to the letter R. However, if the user did everything correctly, none of these if statements will ever execute, which means we can just return whatever they chose, return move. And a quick note before I move on, this is how you check for multiple conditions at once, putting if statements inside of if statements. But this is a really bad way of doing it, and it's the first way I showed you for simplicity. But what you can do is use the AND operator. So I can check if the move is not equal to rock, and, which is just and, the move is not equal to paper, and the move is not equal to scissors, which by the way, I should have been using quotations here. Let me do that. We should be checking for the letters, so we need quotations. So by doing this, then what I can do is get rid of those if statements. And I basically condensed three if statements to one. If the move is not equal to the rock, and it's not equal to paper, and it's not equal to scissors, then we're going to set the player's move to rock. Otherwise, we're going to let them use whatever they chose. So now let's use our function that has this nice little safety check here. Var player move is equal to, and let's set it to get player move, like that. And just to make sure this is working, I'm going to turn on the console, and I'm going to refresh the page. So I'm going to enter lol, and what we get is invalid input, your move is now rock. Player move, rock. Computer move, paper. Computer wins. Very good, so that was the first part. We now have a function for getting the player move. Now what we should do is create a function to get the computer move. So basically, I'm going to create the similar thing, get computer move, like that. And all we're going to do is, I'm looking at my code here. Remember, oh, I remember. So what we did is we created a random number from 1 to 3, and we used that number to set the move here. So all of this code here can be moved. I'm going to Control X to cut it and paste it inside of our get computer move function. And I'm going to tab it over. You always want to tab it over like that. It should be very clear that this code is inside of this function, and you make it clear by tabbing it over. So this would be kind of useless by itself, but what we need to do is when we're done, return the computer move, which by the way, computer move, I should have copied this and put it there as well. Let me do that. So there's the computer move. Now what we can do is return computer move. So this will get the computer's move there. And what we're going to do down here is say var computer move equals get computer move, like that. So you can see that even though our functions are taking up some space, the main code here is getting much, much smaller. Now, the console.logs don't need to be in a function, but let's get this last bit in a function here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another function, calculate winner, like that. And now notice, calculate winner is going to need to know what the player move and the computer move were, or are. So I need to add parameters, player move, computer move. I'm going to take this code here, all of that calculation we did, I'm going to cut it and move it inside of calculate winner, and then tab it over. So player move, computer move are unknown. So what I need to do is create two parameters that are going to represent them. So what this means is when I say calculate winner, I can't just call the function by itself. I have to provide player move and computer move like that. And again, the reason we're doing this is because if I did not have these parameters, well, all of a sudden inside of this function, we just have a random player move word, computer move word, and we need to actually know what those are. So we're getting that outside information, what the player move is, the computer move is. We're using parameters to get that outside information to finish this calculation. So what I'm going to do is, and actually this is all your main code is right here. We just have the player move function, computer move function, and then the calculate winner. To make sure it's all working, I'm going to refresh. I'm going to enter a rock. Player move rock, computer move rock, and the result is a tie. I'm going to refresh it, and this time I'm going to get paper. Player chose paper, computer chose rock. The player wins that time. And you can see it's working. Now, why did we do that? We did it because now it's very clear what each bit of code is supposed to do. We basically added this label to all this code here. So someone who is reading our code here can just look at this and go, oh, how did they get the player move? I can see it right here. All this code is devoted towards getting the player move. All this code is devoted to getting the computer move. Functions are a good way of reusing your code because I could do this all twice. I could copy and paste, do it all twice, and I wouldn't have to rewrite as near as much code. But also functions are a good way of naming or giving names to what your code tasks do. And so even though that's a little bit more code, in general, I think the program is much better. Now, a quick note before I do wrap up the video, you'll find something weird. If you did choose to get rid of these parameters and then get rid of them here and just calculate a winner like that, and then you refresh it and run the program the same, you'll find that it actually works. And you might wonder, well, wait a minute, why do we need parameters? What's weird about JavaScript, and this is something that not all programming languages do, even though this function has a player move and a computer move that aren't really defined as variables here, what JavaScript will do is if you don't add the parameters, it's going to just look through the rest of your code and it's going to see, oh, it's talking about these variables. And you might wonder, well, that's simpler, right? Shouldn't I just let JavaScript use these variables instead of creating parameters here? And the thing is, a lot of programming languages do not do that. If you're to do something like that in C++, you would get an error because the function would not know what these variables were. JavaScript is simply an exception. It knows to look for variables outside of a function if they are not created in the function. But I don't really want to do that. I don't feel like that's a good habit to get into, to just hope that JavaScript is going to find the correct variable out here. Maybe some snob programmer is going to have a different opinion from that, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do is just set up the habit of keeping parameters like that. Don't make the code look for variables outside the function. Give them here. And I'm going to add those parameters right back. Player move, computer move, and that is it. Good job on completing the first, I believe, 12 videos and completing the rock, paper, scissors. And then we'll have a lot more game projects to come.